Telegraph Act or IT Act. No individual can just go and procure any data which he feels like from anywhere. So that is the kind of a systemic, yes, uh, this is the kind of system which is going to be put in place and which is being put in place so that everything is systemized and everything is recorded for and it doesn't have any bias. Yes, Jason.
Little faster.
Yeah, I understand your fascination to surveil because since all of you are from government, and every time the surveillance is put into question, the first example everybody comes up with from the government is that, look, do you want terrorist attacks to happen? So when you surveil on people to ensure that there is no terrorism related activity like the things of like somebody searching pressure cooker bombs or something, so we do have to look whom are we trying to surveil upon. Do you have spied, your country has spied bill on the state of heads. Do you think Angela Merkel was a prospective terrorist? Your country has been surveilling upon United Nations embassies. Do you think UN is a terrorist agency? That is the first question. So we should not give this example of creating threat perception of terrorism to surveil on each and every citizen. One. Second, it is, I agree with Alok that if a machine is doing the surveillance and if they are able to ensure that there is a complete integrity in the system, that information will never be used for political or personal purposes or this thing, we will be okay with that. But at the same time, government will then have to gather trust of the citizens that this will never be misused and appropriate mechanisms should be put in place. But what happens in the case when our government does not spy on citizens? They have a very good mechanism in place. But when a foreign government is caught spying on millions of your citizens and your own government is keeping silent, that means you have outsourced our privacy rights, you have outsourced the surveillance to other countries, and technically you are not within the Indian law, and Indian courts will not even do anything because these people are not under Indian jurisdiction. So that is the question. That not surveillance, surveilling is one thing, maintaining integrity is another. We agree on that. But third, stopping others to spying on your own citizens is the first important thing we should also debate upon.
I'll take that. Uh, your concern is appreciated. We've talked about it earlier too. The one point which he made about automated surveillance, sorry to take the mic from you guys, but that is also not a silver bullet. Because if I have automated surveillance information on, let us say, the King of Saudi Arabia, then I need a human being to go and read that. So at very waste time, that whole system breaks down. See, this is something which, like you said, it's something which can go on and on. The point is, every state is going to spy and indulge in surveillance. It is a statist part of statecraft. Let us first live with that and keep it aside. The second thing is that you talked about PRISM. Now, it's not something which sort of popped out. It has grown. That's the only, and what we are now trying to discuss over here is our own scenario in the aftermath of PRISM. So we know that what we, and you of course took the thunder from my next question in terms of the reaction. So I will come back to that again. Okay? So I move on to Rajeshji. The same question which we had earlier about the design. Are there any changes from your perspective in the design for the state which you had for, let's say, like CCTV cameras which you had over there? Now, what were you going to take? What were you going to do? Or even other surveillance systems which are there? Or any databases which you are building up for crime records or anything, you know? So, in the aftermath of PRISM, things change. We start thinking about things differently. We start thinking about things in the sense of what we require, how we're going to analyze the data. So, to you, sir.
Now let me wear my white hat and answer that question from citizens' perspective. And this question basically is asked by many people that in the name of surveillance, the police and the security agencies many times go overboard and intrude into citizens' privacy. And that's a very valid question. I went to Estonia about 2 years ago as a part of DIT team. And there they gave us a live example. And Estonia is highly electronic society. So government has practically trail of every minute of each citizen. So to build a strong privacy framework, they have an ombudsman, and a citizen can actually log into a website with proper authentication and see which government agency has accessed data related to him. And they told us a real story that a woman had a suspicion about her husband. So she asked a female police officer who was a friend of hers, and she gave her the vehicle number and where is he now. So the police officer logged into her system and gave the location, and whatever then happened between husband and wife is a different story. But the husband basically logged into his website, got a printout that this lady police officer had accessed his vehicle data, went to ombudsman that she had no business of doing this, and the lady police officer was dismissed from service. Here I have been speaking of and actually ordering 43A compliance checks within our own Maharashtra government systems, whether it is UID database or whether it is CCTV related projects, whether it is our state data center. I've been talking about section 43A compliance, which was a new introduction in 2008, which talks about the due diligence mechanisms to be set up by whosoever is owning the data or it's acting as an intermediary. So reaching Estonia kind of thing will be like a dream, but we are starting with section 43A compliance checks, and I have written to NICDG, to Government of India DIT Secretary, to basically order this in all mission mode projects. That along with the usual STQC certification, there should be 43A compliance checks. That the citizens' data is basically accessible only to people who are actually authorized to do this. There are proper log trails and all those stuff. Now I want to touch on one issue. I know the time is less. I am also acting as adjudicating officer under IT Act, section 46 of IT Act. IT Act came in 2000, amended in 2008. So in 13 years, there was not a single case on privacy decided in the IT Act. So in the country as on today, there are 3 judgments on privacy under IT Act. All 3 have been written down by me. One is an interesting thing which will basically throw some light on new issues. It's called Madhvika Joshi case. You can just go to our website it.maharashtra.gov.in and see the judgment. Basically, a girl in a dowry case, she accessed her husband's and father-in-law's email and chat addresses, Gmail addresses. She knew the password. The husband had shared it with her, and when the relations went sour, she just went into their chat sessions and emails. She found enough material and she used it in the dowry case. So these guys came to us under IT Act. So there I won't say very creative interpretation of IT Act, but since there was no precedents, I had to interpret a lot of things. Now in all acts and rules, everything is not clearly defined in first go. It's how the lower courts decide cases, how the high courts and Supreme Courts interpret that, and then the case laws are built. Here now, what is hacking? Usually by hacking, all of us, when we are talking of ethical hackers or black hackers, we think they are using some specialized tools to crack your passwords or anything. So I asked a question, if I leave my house key under the doormat, can a thief just open my door and say, you are asking for it, you are an idiot? Similarly, if I put my password on a yellow sticky note and put it on the desktop, does it give anybody a right to open my email? No. Any unauthorized access is hacking. So that was my interpretation. If the girl knew the password, even then it is hacking. That is one thing. I went a bit extreme in my order, asking questions and then answering them. For example, does a husband have a right to open a letter, sealed envelope coming in wife's name? What is your answer, yes or no? Any hands? No. Does he have a right or she has a right to open an email address if you know the password and see the emails? Yes or no?
It's a matter of trust.
Is it intrusion into privacy if the relation is sour? If they are fighting a dowry case, is it intrusion into privacy? Can they pick up your iPad and see the last websites browsed? Is it hacking? Is it intrusion into privacy? Can they pick up your mobile phone and see your last dial numbers? क्या आपने girlfriend को तो नहीं phone में लाया? Is it hacking? or is it intrusion into privacy? So I asked all those questions in my judgment. I answered those questions in my judgment. The other party went into High Court Delhi. High Court has upheld my order. So as on today, that is the interpretation of hacking, and that is the interpretation of what is intrusion into privacy and hacking. Another case I have decided is bank statement taken by an ex-wife in an alimony case. Now, is it hacking? Taking a bank statement, going into a bank branch, putting an authorization letter or bribing someone or getting a printout of your bank statement. Similarly, an employer, if you are employed with him, can he see your bank statement and see whether you are being paid by his competitors? So you may be an unethical fellow, unloyal fellow, but is it hacking on the part of the employer? In a family dispute, can someone go to a Vodafone or a Reliance franchisee and take you a printout of your call records? Just get the address changed or email changed and get the detailed bill in your email so that you know who is calling whom, the so-called CDR record. Is it hacking? Is it intrusion into privacy? So all those cases I have been deciding, and I have enjoyed writing those judgments. They are setting precedents. Now on CCTV issues, I have been asking similar things. What should be the angle of the CCTV? Should there be a, for example, we are renovating Mantralaya. So I told police guys the angle of the CCTV is wrong. It is directly on top of lady staff. I said it's wrong. It should be in the corridors, not directly on the head of the thing. The position is wrong. Should there be signage that you are under CCTV coverage? Now, there's a case of metro train that footage of intimate scenes was sold off. Now, was it responsibility of metro to basically put at least a big sign, yellow sign with black big letters that this area is under CCTV coverage? So in Mumbai CCTV, Pune CCTV, we are ensuring that every pole will carry that sign. So our RFP has actually the design of the sign and its size and all that stuff. So I think taking those precautions, 43A compliance checks, these kind of judgments which uphold privacy, they will set up new standards.
Thank you, Rajesh sir.
May I ask one question?
Can we just take it a bit, we just take it a bit slow on the questions for the moment. For Vijay sir, I would like to change the question slightly. So because we have enough of privacy on the table right now. Okay, it's more about information sharing. We had Goshandai ji in the morning and he talked about information sharing. And we had, in our brief chat with you, you talked about the yeoman work sort of which you have been doing in your department. So in terms of, again, we look back at PRISM, we look back at what we are doing, and seeing PRISM or seeing where, what has happened, So what do you say in terms of information sharing? Have you brought information sharing into your organization, or done anything in that area? And how would it work?
I would like to answer all the issues which are raised by you as well as by our friend sitting there. And I would like to say that it requires a perspective to look at these things. PRISM is nothing new. It is only a name of a project. Tomorrow we may have triangle or quadrilateral or square, some other program which will try to intrude into our privacy. What we have to understand is, I will try to draw a parallel. The way we say that national security, when we talk about, he has said that all of you are from government, so you are fond of surveillance. I would like to share with you, it is not the fact. Government is not interested in putting surveillance on anybody, not at all. It is also said that the security forces, they hate human rights and human rights activists. That is also wrong. Any policy of the government, any action of any organization has to balance both. The national security and human rights, they have to go hand in hand. There has to be a balance. If there is no balance, then your policy is incorrect. It is going to fall. Similarly, when we talk about privacy and surveillance, The surveillance and privacy has to go together, hand in hand. It is like the power of atomic energy. It can be used for useful purposes and it can be used for disastrous purposes. We have nuclear reactors and we have nuclear bombs also. So we have to decide and find a balance between these two. Now coming to the abuse, the problem always with the technology is abuse. Every technology has useful output, a useful output for the mankind. But the problem is it is always abused by the user. For example, if you talk about any of the surveillance network, why a particular country is snooping onto some other country? Because it is their national policy. They are doing it in their national interest. And as we say, as we talk about this particular surveillance program, they say the courts authorize the surveillance, the program, under section 702 of FISA Act. This is what the legal position. But no court in any country, democratic country, would, like any security or a policing agency, to snoop onto somebody whom they have not authorized to be snooped. What happens is you get authorization for monitoring somebody, and instead of monitoring him, you monitor many other people who you are not supposed to monitor. That is abuse. Let us come to even bigger question. Does any country, for example, India as a country, has any right to put surveillance on a person who is not Indian national and who is residing outside the limits of territorial limits of India? Do we have the right? If we do that, what legal recourse that victim, affected person has? I may do that in the national interest, but that person's privacy is breached. If it is not authorized, he can take legal recourse. He is bound by the laws of his own countries. He can approach that particular, the laws or courts in his country for the redressal. Now the question is, does the legal system of that country is capable, is empowered to take action or bring the culprit, the offender, to the book? In this particular case, UN has been breached. Germany has been breached. Does these organizations, countries they have the legal rights. There is law. India also has law, IT Act. Any computer system which is there in the territory of India, if it is attacked by anybody sitting anywhere in the world, then he becomes offender. He can be booked by the Indian laws. He can be brought to the book, tried by the Indian court. So IT Act provides you extraterritorial jurisdiction. Now if somebody, for example, if Germany's computers have been hacked by some country, Germany has the law. Their cyber security has been breached. Do they have mechanism in place to bring the culprit to the book? That is the question. And person or the country whichever has breached the security, they have done it in their national interest. So from their perspective, from their point of view, they are correct. From the point of view of the victim, they are also correct. But the balance will come only when the person who is using this technology uses it in responsible manner. When he does not breach a person's privacy without authorization. He does not go and breaches the privacy of a person which they or he should not do. And in case such a breach is detected, the victim, the legal procedure, the legal process, the legal structure in that country should be able to bring the culprit to the book. We have examples. We have not been, we know who are the participants of 2611. Have we been able to bring them to face the law of the land in India? We have been requesting. We haven't been. When we know a particular offender is across in other country, what is the procedure? what is the option with us? You cannot go and conduct operations in those countries. You cannot pick them up from that particular country and bring them and ask them to face court of law. We cannot do that. What options you have? You will move to diplomatic channel. You will use extradition treaties, and you will request the other government to help you, assist you in investigation. You will request their courts that we require such a person. He is an offender. He has committed offense against our country, against our national. Kindly extradite that man to our country so that he faces the law of our land. And that is how. I'll just take 1 minute more. Has it been happening? Have we been able to bring David Headley? Have we been able to bring the JUD chiefs from across? We have not been. So these problems will always remain, and these are known to the people who have this technology. That is why they breach. That is why they breach with impunity. They breach without any fear. And surveillance is basically done by intelligence agencies, and most of the intelligence agencies are the governments only. And they always hide behind the shield. You can't do anything to them. So if this is a situation, if my country, India, is being attacked, what should I do? What I should do is, as Mr. Bareja has said, or Rakesh sir has said, if I keep all my doors open in night, any thief can come in and commit any offense. He can loot me, he can kill me, he can murder me, and he can take away the valuables. That is what the entire system of internet and computer infrastructure we have. We have to build up protocols. We have to understand what exactly computer security is, and we have to bring in those procedures and protocol in place. Not only government alone, each and every person, to ensure that his privacy is protected, and also ensure that in the process of protecting privacy, he is protecting the national interest also. Thank you.
That was a very long one. I sort of lost my way, frankly. But the point being that my question to you was on information sharing, but we went on a very different track. But anyway, taking the theme, I'm sorry, William, I had a separate question for you. I wouldn't be able to come back because we got just 5 minutes in hand. Now we have 4 people over here. I have just one question, which will it basically emanates from Vijay sir's talk over here, that you talked about, having systems or not having systems, and countries being, going back to the, I would say, judiciary system and asking them that I've been attacked, or please take action against whatever. In the context, I think about some country attacking you and some country not being able to attack back or whatever, right? Now, just the last question as we go home is that we are back to PRISM. We all know what's happening, and we have not had a single murmur from the government. So if somebody attacks me, shouldn't I, even if I don't have the power to hit back, so should I just keep quiet? Should I not, just say, "Kyun mara?" That's all. I'm not saying you go and say, "Main bhi tumko ye karunga" type of thing. But so it is left to you on the just 1 minute for each of you.
Yeah.
1 minute for each of you, sir.
Since I said very beginning, we are not getting very emotionally attached to the subject. We are just discussing it to make this entire discussion more lively. So I am giving a very different counter argument. I may not even agree to this, the counter argument which I am giving, or the argument which I am giving, but I am just giving for the sake of the discussion so that it can take forward. Okay, assume that I am the organizer of this conference, and I have all these water bottles lined up into this particular conference, and I have decided that the color of the water will be blue, whether you like it or you don't like it. You have it. You will have to have this water which is blue in color. What do? You have 2 options. Drink this blue water or don't drink it. Now they have given you something. They have given you Google, they have given you Gmail, they have given you Google Earth, everything. You want to make use of it. It's by choice. Nobody has forced you to use it. So if you are being surveilled upon by methods like PRISM, that is precisely in your domain. You can choose not to use Microsoft operating systems. It's purely, do we have the resilience or the strength or the capability or the capacity to have a similar framework, what others have, what we are using, make it or die. If you, I mean, that's the situation where you are. Even if I want to drink water, if I don't have water around, it is blue in color, probably I will drink that blue color water. And that is my situation today. So why the security conference is precisely into that direction, that please get up, make something of your own. Who stops you to make your own Google? Make your own stuff and do it. Don't use it. That's the only alternative. So, pro Prism today.
Sir, Rajesh ji?
Yeah, I also actually started by saying that it is silly to express shock at this. There is seriously nothing shocking about it. What is shocking is if somebody comes into your land, like it's like a drone attack, somebody comes into your land and attacks you, somebody comes to your site and picks up the data. Any data leaving our systems, anybody in the world will be picking it up. So it's better to have our own internal systems, critical internet infrastructure like .in domain names, our own root servers, our own internet exchange being more basically catching almost 100% domestic data domestically, not using Gmail or other such stuff or Google Drive or SkyDrive, etc. for storing your important documents. So those precautions now must be put in place by government, army, air force, etc. In Maharashtra, we issued an advisory about 2-3 weeks ago, a long 3-page advisory, which basically reduces this kind of risk to the government setup. For the citizen, it's your sweet choice, which system you use.
Vijay sir?
Yeah, I'll only say that if somebody says that it is dangerous to drive on the roads because people die in accidents, then it is not going to work. It is dangerous to sleep in bed because most of the people die in sleep. That's why we should not sleep in the bed. That kind of attitude is not going to work. Internet is going to be there. Programs like Prism will keep coming. We have to ensure that how can we secure ourselves by whatever methods, by whatever structures.
From a foreigner's perspective, I would suggest this. You've all heard of keeping up with the Joneses, meaning you want to be like your neighbors because they get a new car or they have a new house or a new toy. India is not in a place where you need to keep up with the Joneses. And when I say the Joneses, I mean the United States. Look internally at what is critical and important to your security as a nation. Understand the building blocks which make your culture, your language, your history, your country unique, and protect those. You don't need to discuss, you can certainly discuss it, but I wouldn't say you have to worry about becoming a surveillance state. That's not the point of your country. Your country is an international technology hub. Use that as your strength and understand that that's what an adversary, whether it's a cyber criminal, a nation state, or some other nefarious creature on the binary highway, is going to come after you. And until you take it seriously, you'll be at the same place a year from now discussing these very same issues, only as it relates to America. Don't be like America, be Indians, and be happy.
That was good, Bill. Thank you very much. Sort of makes my day. And with apologies, just a minute. With apologies and living up to my reputation, I am supposed to be a disruptor, incidentally, and he can bear me out. Rajesh is meeting for the first time on a public forum, and so is Vijay. But I would like to thank the three of you for your answers, which gave us nothing. You talked about everything in the world, except give me an opinion on my government keeping quiet when somebody is pissing on my door. Whether I like it or not, I'm so sorry. But okay, this was with apologies. We take our bad words back. Please erase that.
I'll give one.
I will bring it back to you, sir.
This is an app time actually.
Yeah,
so
okay.
It'll go off.
It'll go off, okay.
Just to answer what he said at last, I'm not going to speak anything, I'm just going to quote from Rashmi Rathi. Okay? क्षमा शोभती उस भुजंग को जिसके पास गरल हो, उसको क्या जो दंतहीन विष रहित विनीत सरल हो। रे रोक युधिष्ठिर कौन ने यहाँ, जाने दे उसको स्वर्ग धीर, लौटा दे हमें गांडीव गदा, लौटा दे अर्जुन भीम वीर। So till the time we don't have our Bhim and Arjun back, let's accept it.
No, okay, but I think we'll get into a debate, but I would just like to. No. See, we'll take the question, we'll take the answer from him too, don't worry. I just have a few points which I've sort of put together in conclusion, okay, from what we have from the